This is the Ventura 25 Game-in-One plug-and-play unit. It's kind of a neat little plug-and-play. I picked it up at a local thrift shop, and it has the power in the front, and it came with the batteries. Has a little square triangle and little arrow buttons. Has a start and reset keys. It's almost like a little Xbox controller. It has the shoulder buttons up front too. And what I wanted to do in this video was kind of play along and see what games are being ripped off in the video and see if you can name the game that's being ripped off. I'm going to try my best, and I'll give my opinion as I go. First up is Moto Rally. To me, this game looks a lot like pole position on a motorcycle. There's not really a whole lot here. It's not a great game. It's kind of boring. And that's why I don't spend too much time on it. The music that plays constantly in the background, after a while, it gets on your nerves too. Last Cabra. This is sort of like a Xevious to me, although different. It's a shooter game. So that's what I'm going with in terms of what game I think they ripped off. But it was kind of fun. I mean, it's not bad for a shooter. Aeroengine. This is a side-scrolling, kind of like a Vanguard or for the Atari 2600 or Iridium on the Commodore 64. It's not a bad implementation, although I feel like it's too easy. That's the thing on this plug and play. I feel like most of the games, or a lot of the games on here, are geared toward young children. And that's not a bad thing. And this could get kids into gaming. So it's that type of a unit. Next up is Pinball Track. I have a hard time really trying to figure out what this game was ripping off. I'm not sure if it's kind of like a Marble Madness 2-dimensional, or a kind of like a one-dimensional Ball Blazer. I don't know. If you know what this game or any of the games that I am guessing, if you know what the actual are trying to rip off, drop me a note in the comments. Next up is Birdie Nest. This one is funny. It's a game where you got to try to catch the bird eggs and nothing else that comes out of the bird. To me, this is a clone or a copy of Big Bird's Egg Catch on the Atari 2600. That's the only thing I can think of that it sort of mimics. But it's kind of funny, and you have to balance the bird with your hand a little bit. It's weird. Next up is BingoZap. Now this one, I really was clueless. I think this is for like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old just getting into video games, and you tell them, hey, go to the dot that's flashing, and watch out for the little holes. But I have no idea what it's trying to mimic. Next up, Bolt Fighter. This is a lot like the game that we already looked at, Last Cabra. Might even be the same game with a different name, but to me, I guess, I don't know. I'm gonna go with Xevious again. I can't think of anything else that it mimics. There's a few games on this 25 game plug and play that are exactly alike, and this is one of them that replicates. And the other ones are those racing on the motorcycle games. But we'll see a couple more of those. But you know, actually, this one has little power-ups, and it's not a bad little game. Excel Racing. I actually like this little game, but it's a knockoff of the arcade game Rally X with the flags, and you can drop oil down and block the other cars that are trying to chase you. So it's not bad, but it's a little slow compared to the arcade. It's too slow. So for that reason, I don't really like it that much. And then next up is Star Alley, or Ally. I think it's Alley. I'm not really sure what this is ripping off? Maybe like Galaga? I don't know. And then next up, Firefighter. This one I thought, oh, is this the Firefighter on the 2600? No, this to me is just like Circus Atari with a Firefighter theme, or Breakout with a Firefighter theme. And really, it's probably better suited towards paddle use if this thing had a paddle, but you don't. You just have the joystick that it comes with. But you know, as you progress, you get different backgrounds and different levels. So at least it has that going for it. The thing I noticed on this plug and play is it does not record your scores, even though it has the options there, and you put in your names. As soon as you go back to the menu on some of them, all the scores are wiped out, which is a crack up to me. Next up is VR Racing. VR Racing is another one of those racing games like the first one, Moto Rally, and it's not that much better, or it's practically the same. It gives you the option of your landscape that you can choose from, and it's kind of like pole position, but not as good, and or maybe motocross on the Atari 2600 or enduro. I thought you could be trying to rip off. Next up is Elfland. I really liked this game. This is one of the probably might be my favorite on the unit, and to me it's ripping off Stay Frosty and the homebrew on the Atari 2600, but I don't know. That might not be what its intention was. And what you do is you go around, you have to be the same color as the little elves, I guess, and before you can touch them. And once you match their color, they turn into little angels, and then you get the angels. And you step on those buckets, I guess, to turn to that color. So if you step on the red, you'll turn red. If you stand on the red, you'll turn red. You stand on the blue, you'll turn blue. And there's a bunch of levels in this one too. And it's not bad. It's probably one of the better games on the unit. Next up is GP Race. This is yet another motocross racing game. Now this one, to me, is like motocross on the 2600. I guess VR racing isn't so much, because this one is two-dimensional. You just move left and right and avoid obstacles. Not my type of game. It's I don't prefer it, but for little guys it might, or little kids, it might be good. Next up is Move Fun. This one lets you, it's a like a Stratagems Deluxe remake. It lets you pick the gems, and you just kind of match them up, and once you get a match, they'll disappear, and you'll be presented with more gems to match. Not my type of game either. Push the Ball. This one, I was having a hard time coming up with what are they ripping off. I mean, it's air hockey, but it's a little bit like Wall Ball on the Atari 2600, except for it's not really a wall on the other side, but it plays like it. It's not bad, actually. Ultra Doggie. This one is so slow. It's Frogger. It's a Frogger ripoff, but your dog moves so slow that it's so painful to play. I mean, I know it's not that difficult. You can barely touch something, but for that reason, I hate that game. Catch the Egg. This to me is like Kaboom on the Atari 2600. It's a Kaboom ripoff. And it's really hard to manage playing that with the joystick. You need a paddle for this. Dart Champion. This one I could not figure out. I guess I am too clueless to play this, but it's a little bit like Skeet Shoot on the Atari 2600. You have 2 sights, and I'm just pushing all buttons, flailing, not getting it. You might have to be 3 years old to play this. Next up is Dragonfire. I thought, oh, they put an actual 2600 game on here. No, this is Snake. Now this, to me, the closest game that it's copying, or maybe it even originated, is P0-Snake on the Commodore 64, which I reviewed not too long ago. And of course, the Commodore 64 version is 100 times better than this, but they're very similar. And the only other game I can think of that it might be mimicking is Surround on the 2600. I don't know if you can think of another one. I don't know if there's any other Snake games out there. Next up, Fish Catcher. I could not think of what this is ripping off. I have no idea. Maybe it's original. It's not a whole lot of fun to be had here. It's kind of boring, but might be interesting to a 4-year-old. Golden Arrow, I kind of like this game a little bit, but I find it very difficult to actually... This is an archery type game where you have to try to, hit the bullseye. But even when you... Seems like when you do hit the bullseye, you don't hit the bullseye, so it's impossible. But I don't know what it's ripping off. Maybe it's in Summer Games or something like that, but it seems like one round of like a Summer Games or a Winter Games. But after a few minutes of this, you want to move on to something else. Jewel Master. This is similar a little bit to the other Gems game that was on Move Fun, but it's more like a Tetris with jewels. But I find it annoying. This is not my style of game. I did not like it. Next up is Grass Cutter. This is probably my number 2 on the 25-in-1 plug and play. It's kind of boring. You just go around cutting grass. You're filling in the tiles. And then it rains a lot on this game. So your grass grows really quickly when it rains. But this game cracks me up because you get all the way to level 9 and you have like a split second to record your score in your mind. And then it says, game over. You start over back at 0 and do it all over again. But it's not bad. I thought it was entertaining. I like it better than some of the shooters on the plug and play. So here I just finished level 9 and then back to the menu. Grass Cutter. Next up, Sea War. This is a little bit like Atari 2600 Sea Wolf, only in reverse. It's not bad. It's not bad. I wouldn't play it that much, but it's implemented. It's not a bad implementation. And the funny thing to me is you have fish that fire bombs at you. How often do you see that? I'm assuming they're robotic. So anyway, that's the 25-in-1, and it's not a bad little unit if you can get it cheap at a garage sale or at a thrift shop. It's worth a couple dollars.